This is what you use when you don't have a big fancy lift. Take a shop hoist, you set a snowmobile on top of a welding bench. Well, this is a 1990 Arctic Cat Prowler 440, and I got to replace the left side track drive shaft bearing. So this is where your speedo hooks, but the bearing's there too. There's your bearing holders. I'll show you it underneath how you can tell how these are busted. Okay, we're on this side of the snowmobile. Got a light under here. You look right back there. That bearing there, you can see that it's not in the middle of the bearing holder like it's supposed to. That bearing is shot. This is not in the middle. I can stick my finger in the bearing right now on the other side. So step one of what you need to do, loosen up your track, both sides. Loosen it up as much as you can. So you take all the tension off of your front drive shaft in there. When you got these all loosened up, you got to take and get your rear set of bogies in here to go forward so your track gets all loose. And if they don't just go forward when you release it, take a board, something you can stick in your track here, and go right against the back of there. Take a hammer and pound that all the way forward so that you get your track nice and loose. Well, then you got to take your locking collar loose, so there'll be a set screw in it. You just got to take and get that screwed out. And then this, you take and you whack these, it'll tighten up on that edge of that bearing with this locking collar. And mine, it's actually already separated from the bearing, so I don't need to worry about doing anything with it right now. But you'll have to get that tightened back on there later. Now when you're in here, you're going to have to take, this is your speedo hookup is what this is. And you got to take the cable here loose so you can get to the other nut back there. Okay, so I just started loosening it with the pliers, and now I got to turn it off of there. Okay, got that loose. It's going to take and pull your cable out. That's the end of your cable. If that's busted, that can cause your speedometer not to work. Currently on this snowmobile, the speedometer doesn't work, and I figure it's the mechanism inside of there that's shot. So now you're going to take these 3 nuts off, and then your bearing will come apart on the other side, and then this speedometer hook up here will come loose on this side. Okay, I got all them nuts off of there, so here's your speedo drive, and I already see what's wrong with it. This piece in the end of the shaft, because that bearing went, it snapped that off. So if I can get that out of there, I can replace it. Otherwise, the speedo's just shot on here. And there's what's left of the bearing in there. It's all shot. Here's what's left of the bearing. There's balls in there. You got your outer seal. There's your ball bearings. It's all messed up. Now, in order to get that shaft to slide over so you can get your bearing holders off and then be able to get the new bearing on itself, you have to take and come over to the other side. This panel here flips down like the other one, but there's a screw holding it. And you're going to take, and you got to take that chain case cover off of there. So you got to get the oil out, and it'll make a little bit of a mess, but you got to take that off. Well, I got all the bolts loose. They just kind of get stuck on here. Got my little coolant container. Oh, it's draining through a different hole. Got my little coolant container in place. Kind of can drip through 2 different spots there, so have something to catch it. While you're in here, you can also check and make sure your tensioner's working. Then take a good look at your chain and all your gears. Make sure everything's in good shape. These, they have a reusable little rubber gasket on them because they're meant to actually come off of there and be checked. Okay, now what I did here, I took the tensioner off, just 2 nuts holding it on. There's little spacers in there, so make sure you don't lose them. And then I took the 2 bolts out of here. Just going to take the chain and the gears off of there. Okay, now we've made it to the bearing. Your bearing, this is your holder on this side. There's one on the inside. The bearings are real nice on this case because they're right there. You just take this holder off. Some, there's a metal thing that goes around them, and that makes the cases a real pain in the butt to get off if you ever have to replace one. But these Arctic Cats like this, they got a really nice setup. So now I just got to get this loose so I can slide that shaft over. Okay, what I did here, I took the 3 nuts off of here, took the bearing holder off, and there's this bearing on the end of that shaft, and there's a seal on here. You would not have to take this whole shaft out of there. You could just replace the bearing as it is, but I have to be able to get this locking collar loose because it's seized on there. So I'm going to stick it in the vise and get that loose. Well, I got the end on my shaft fixed now, so I'm going to take and get it back underneath the snowmobile so I can reinstall it. Now that I have it under there, what I got to do is get that end over there up into the hole where it goes. And then I'll get the bearing on this end and get this all attached, and then I'll get that stuff put back together over there. It'll be easier to put this side together first. Well, I got the bearing on this side all installed and the chain back on it. Just got to put the tensioner on it. Over here I got that bearing all back in and tightened on, and got the speedo hook up back in. Just got to hook up the speedo cable. Something to remember when you put these bolts in here, use some thread locker or Loctite on it. You don't want them to come loose. Once you got everything up there put back together, all you got to do is tighten up your track. Something you can do with the bolts here for tightening your track, just put a little bit of automatic transmission fluid on them. It'll keep them from getting seized up inside that aluminum there.